Welcome to the Denver Foos podcast, y'all. Here in the Beyond Sports studios. Shout out to Ron, the Fitted Nuggets fan. We are here. We are decked out. This is Denver, baby. Champions. We got a big season coming up. We want to give a shout out to our sponsors, SE Shirts and Hoodies. Make sure you go to seshirtsandhoodies.com for all your t-shirts, hoodies needs. They do everything, custom apparel, custom jerseys. They got you. Shout out to Sean Espinoza. Also, make sure you go down to 1400 South Federal Boulevard to the Denver Foos Barbershop. We'll get you right every time. We have a special guest here on the Denver Foos podcast. I want to welcome Jazlyn Rodriguez. Welcome to the Denver Foos podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes. For the people at home, tell them what you do.
So currently I work for the Texas Rangers as the Multicultural Content Coordinator.
Yes, all the way from Tejas.
All the way from Tejas.
Yep. But this is the Denver Foos podcast.
Yes.
Tell the people, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Denver. Yes. All my family's from Denver, all over Denver. I'd say honestly all over Colorado, but like for sure central Denver, like that's where me and my family are from.
Right on. So like no gangster stuff, but like where you from, foo?
I'm from Denver, foo.
So you're a Denver foo.
I would say so.
Where did you grow up and go to high school?
So I actually grew up in Inglewood. That's where my grandma's was. That's where we lived. But like obviously like, you know, with family and stuff all over Denver. And then for high school, I was blessed enough to go to Mullen High School. So that's a private Catholic school down south, close to Inglewood. But I was able to go there because I got a academic scholarship. And then when I graduated.
So you're like a smart foo?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I feel like I was a hardworking fool. Like,
okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
all right, sorry to cut you off.
I think I had to work hard.
So you got an academic scholarship to go to Mullen.
Yes.
So for people at home, tell them what Mullen is.
Mullen is a private Catholic school from, what's it called? How do I explain it? So Mullen is pretty much a private Catholic school, and they focus on like LaSallian education. It is quite expensive to go there. It's like a mini college because it's a college prep school. And yeah, it's just a very top tier Catholic school here in Colorado. I feel like that's the best way I could put it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in Colorado and Denver, all over, we're doing this thing right now with like green chili.
Yes.
Where are some restaurants? It don't have to be Mexican restaurants, but what are some restaurants that like are so Denver, but like you always have, every time you come back home, you have to go hit up? What are some of the restaurants you have to hit up?
The one restaurant that I for sure have to hit up every time I come home is Chubby's on 38th on our side. That's my spot. I love Chubby's.
When you go to Chubby's, what do you get?
I get a smothered fry with steak and chicharron.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't get the chicharron, but I always want to get the steak for sure. Or what always hits every time is a breakfast burrito, smothered breakfast burrito.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They make the eggs fresh and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
so
like
fire.
the best way to go at Chubby's. Everybody gets the fries. Everybody gets.
Oh, yeah.
But if you get the breakfast burritos, it's the freshest stuff that they get.
Yeah. We would either get the horchata, like when it was small, we would either get it there or we would get it at 7-Eleven across the street, like just because in case you wanted something else.
You have to go to that
Yeah,
Seb's
in case you wanted something else. In case you wanted like 7-Up.
I need a Gatorade because sometimes the chili's a little too hot.
Yeah.
So I need a Gatorade. I can't wash it down with a pop.
Sometimes like I feel like it just depends on the day. Like sometimes I feel like I have a really good spice tolerance, but then sometimes I just like I cannot. No, not at all. But
Okay.
I love Chubby's for sure.
So this kind of goes into the next question. So what do you when you're eating your Chubby's or whatever, what do you wash it down with? What do you like? Do you drink Dr. Pepper?
I feel like you're asking me that for a specific
Yeah. It could roll. It's gonna roll into that, but
you're gonna
no, I'm not gonna do nothing.
But I actually don't really drink soda that much.
Oh, okay.
I'm more of like I'm on the new trend.
Wait, what did you just say? Soda?
Soda, pop soda. I say both. I say pop and soda, but I feel like I've gotten some of like the Texas twang.
Yeah.
I'll say y'all a lot now. So not much of a soda girl, but I will for sure drink it with horchata. I feel like horchata always is like it hits.
Wait. You mix your pop with horchata?
Okay.
Okay.
Mix horchata. Like I feel like that's the way to go is chubbies on horchata. And then if someone gets soda, like sometimes I'll just like take a sip, but I'm not really that big of a soda person. But if I ever am at a party and I have a choice and like let's say there's like anything else and then there's Dr. Pepper, I'm always gonna go for Dr. Pepper. Like if I don't have a choice.
Is there a reason why you choose Dr. Pepper? Has it always been like that, or is it a little bit?
Well, I actually like Dr. Pepper was my favorite dark soda for sure. When like, cause you know, like you can either do Coke or Dr. Pepper,
or Sprite or 7-Up, or
so like for sure I liked it, but they paid for my entire college academic journey, so they covered it with a tuition scholarship that I won.
That's amazing. But you had to put in a lot of hard work to get that scholarship. So what did that all entail to even get the opportunity to win that scholarship? What did you have to do?
So I had to submit a scholarship video, and that was like a minute long, and you pretty much just had to talk about what it is that you would do with the scholarship money. What are your aspirations? What are your goals? What do you want for your future? And thanks to the help of my cousin, Rafael Dominich III, RD3 Media, he made the video for me, and we like whipped it up, and it really was like a very well directed and greatly executed piece. So I think that there were a lot of elements in the video that just like captivated the judging panel, that made it like, oh, like there's these elements in here, like these balloons that represented things that I wanted to let go of, like in my family, and things that I wanted to change, like in my family. So being able to share the story like in the video with my cousin, that is what got me into the scholarship, to become a finalist. And so it was me against 3 other people for the Big 12 tournament, because every college tournament, every college championship, or I guess bowl game, every college like bowl games, like Big 12, SEC, all that stuff, they each have a competition, and so we were the Big 12 competition.
Okay, leading up into the big game.
Yes, leading up into the big game. And so we had found out that we were finalists, and then what I did was I did like mad research, and I saw all the winners. So I went on YouTube and I searched every winner, specifically female winners, because I don't know if you guys can see my hands. They look bigger because I have fake nails on, or I have nails, but my hands look bigger because I have nails. But I knew that I could
on the
not,
ball, so you look
like.
Yeah,
I could not, like I could not grip a football. So I was searching and seeing like when females won, what is it that they did? And it's the infamous move that everyone makes fun of. Whenever I talk about it, they say, "Oh, did you do the chest pass?" And I did the chest pass. But
hey, Mahomes does a chest pass every once in a while.
So I did the chest pass. But I literally practiced every day, and I got permission. Dr. Pepper had sent everyone who was in our group the dimensions of the can. So like you throw footballs into a giant Dr. Pepper can, and whoever makes the most in that 30-second slot, that's who becomes the winner, and that's who wins the tuition. So I had my uncle here in Colorado make me a replica, so when I came for Thanksgiving, I could practice while I was here. But then when I was in Texas, one of my friends, his name's Marcos, he and his dad were contractors, so they made me the replica in Texas.
Wow.
And so I had went to like my school's rec center, and I gave them my whole story. I was like, hey, like I can't afford to be here. Like I'm trying to get my scholarship so I could finish my 4 years. I gave them like the whole story explaining like what this scholarship was. And they let me put the giant board in the back of the rec center, because they wouldn't let me put it on like the school grass.
Okay.
And so I put it in the back where the rec center was, and I would go every day, like at least for an hour. And I trained with one of my friends who used to play on the football team. His name was Omega. So me and him practiced every day for just like maybe between 20 minutes to an hour. But he helped me with just like my form, and like kind of just like, okay, pick up the ball, go like this, or like breathe, or don't think about this. And then, I also listened to stadium music in my AirPods so that I wouldn't get nervous when it was
being in front of a big crowd.
To hear like the crowd and like everyone like screaming at me, because I didn't want to like, choke up once I got up there. So I definitely felt really confident, like, and I don't think that the crowd overwhelms me because I practiced enough with like the stadium sounds in my earbuds.
Have you ever did anything in front of a crowd? Because, a lot of people could have get frightened by a crowd and have stage fright and all that?
I did cheer. So in high school, I cheered at Mullen. And so I was already used to kind of like being in front of a crowd and like stadium sounds and all those things. So I feel like that was already like second nature to me, even though I had already been a couple months like at a cheer.
Right.
But I knew it would be a way different platform. Like this is at the Cowboy Stadium.
Wow. After all the preparation, how confident were you going into the...
I was honestly like super, super confident.
Okay.
I think going into, because there's a prelim round. So it's you against the other three the day before the competition. And so you have to go against each individual, and whoever of the four makes the most, those two go on the next day to the Big 12 championship.
So nobody knows that. We're just watching the game.
So you don't know. Like you don't know like this person could look like a straight athlete, or this person could look like, oh, maybe they're not that athletic, but then they surprise you. So that was like the element where we just didn't know anything about each other when we got there. And then it wasn't until after that first round and how well I did at the first day, then I had that much more confidence going into the next day.
Mm-hmm. Did you kill it better the first day or the actual day when you won? So
the first day, so they give you like, I don't know how to explain it. They give you like a cooler, and your cooler is like, like a regular cooler where it's a regular cooler where you pull like your sodas out, right? It's like average size, maybe up to like your hips or your stomach. That's what they fill the footballs up with. So it's maybe like 10, 15, 20. I don't know how many footballs fit in it. More than 15, I know that. So you have 30 seconds to do it, to throw the footballs. Wait, what was the question? I forgot.
Did you score more on the first day or the second day?
So I had, how do I explain it? So I had 30 seconds to throw as many footballs. The first day I made 14, and I don't know how many I missed. Because we couldn't have our phones out, we couldn't record anything, so I don't know how many I missed the first day. But the second day I made 16, I believe. Y'all could fact check me.
What was the fact check? What?
17 out of 19.
17 out of 19. We got the fact check from Momager.
Yes.
In the back.
Yes.
That's amazing. But look at all the things that you had to do to even get to that point. Like, just for people listening, it takes. What were we watching? That what's that coach's name? Saban. What did he say? Like, nothing's guaranteed. Like, nothing is owed to you. Like, you get nothing. Like, because there were some teams and it was like they're 7-0, but it's like, oh, they only have like a 50% chance of making the playoffs. But it's like, what is that guarantee? Nothing. Like, even if you don't get up every day and you don't do all the things that you're supposed to do, like if you didn't do all those things to prepare or whatever, you were guaranteed nothing. Like, and you still had to do all that to come down to going there. That's amazing. And the crowd went wild, right?
So the crowd was good at first, right? Because they see a boy versus a girl. So my hope is that they're cheering for the girl and they're saying, like, we hope that she does her thing, But I think when they gave me the mic and, you have like your speech. I didn't want to prepare a speech because even though I had a lot of confidence against my opponent, I didn't want to have a speech and then like my heart gets broken. Like, let's say, like he beats me. So I didn't want to prepare one. And I was like, thank you to everyone at Mullen, like my high school, because they sent me a video right before the prelim round. And I was crying, like bawling my eyes out. And that is what I think gave me like the faith and like the spirit that made me have that much more confidence. Like, because the whole time, like I was praying to God, like the whole time I was practicing, but I definitely felt like way more confident after like that message from my high school. I don't remember what the question was again. I'm sorry.
No. You're fine. So then when you were on the field and it all went down and you finally you killed that guy, to be honest with you. I watched the video your mom was showing us, and like, boom. My sister actually was watching it live when it happened, and we just she's always watching college football and just everything. And then so those competitions, she was like, oh man. And it resonated with her because you said you were from Colorado and Mullen. And she was like, oh, cool, right on.
Reppin',
yeah. So
I shout. That's what it was. I gave a shout out to Mullen, and then I gave a shout out to TCU. And because it was Baylor versus Oklahoma, they were all boo, and they were all booing me. And I was like, bro. But I honestly didn't even care. I was so like geeked. My freaking mouth was dry. I couldn't breathe because I was just so nervous. I was just like, thank you to everyone. And I was giving everyone a shout out. So I literally I don't even think I was realizing that everyone booed me. I think I giggled because I could sense the booing. But you're just like on one when you're, after that moment.
The adrenaline. Yeah.
After all the adrenaline, like, it definitely was just so much. I honestly didn't even realize it until after, when I like saw the video and all this stuff. Then I hear it, but it wasn't that bad.
Right. So, where's the question?
All good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, I did thank God twice. That was.
So you shouted out God instead of Dr. Pepper.
I did.
That's cool.
So I think
That's not a bad mistake.
I don't know who I thanked first. Oh yeah, because I couldn't tell if I couldn't hear like the
echo. Was it a really
yeah? So I was like, oh, I wasn't close enough to the mic, and so I was like, I want to thank God, and then I like went back. I want to thank God, and so I just felt so embarrassed after. I was like, I did it twice. That was an embarrassing part.
No, that's nothing to be embarrassed about.
No, not thanking God, but it was repeating it twice.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, because I knew I was nervous.
Well, at least you were only nervous on the microphone than having to perform.
No.
So you gain the scholarship, and then you decide then you go to TCU. Tell us about your days at TCU.
My days at TCU.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say. Sorry, I'm like, it comes out, bro. It comes out. Some of my stuff that I say. That is lucky Denver Foos. I know. So
what did you go to when you decided to go to TCU? What were you deciding to major in?
When I wanted to go to TCU, at first I was comparing myself to like all the other students at Mullen, so I was super just focused on like what's everyone else looking at, like why are they looking at all these big schools? Because initially, like when you're a first gen student or when you're someone who doesn't come from a continuing generation line of like people who have been to college or graduated high school for one, like I'm the first female in my family to graduate high school. My cousin Ralphie was the first male. I was like, okay, let me not think about money and it's just about like affordability. Like, let me actually consider all the stuff that all the other students here are thinking about, and that is school spirit. Like, what are the class sizes? What's the location? What's the atmosphere? All these things that, other than just money and like finances and proximity to home. And so when I got there, when I got to that point of, okay, narrowing it down to all these schools, I was looking at all the big schools, like the big sports schools. That was my thing, because in high school, I was all about sports. I was all about bringing the most hype to the pep rallies. And I was, the co-chair of like the spirit team and all that stuff. So looking at TCU, I was like, oh, I want to go to a school that has big school spirit and all this stuff. But I was looking at focusing on helping my community. And so like that was a big part for me. And so I initially wanted to go in for, I think it was like psychology or something, because I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but I hate science. And so I went in because I saw everyone else like going to school, like that's how you're going to make money. Like, why would you go to college if you're not going to make money, blah, blah, blah. So I went in for that idea, but then quickly realized I didn't want to do psychology, didn't want to be in pre-med. Then I transferred to communication, and then I considered like social work. But then after some time, when I was really like thinking about it, because I was only in like my freshman classes, I was just thinking about it so much, and I was like, okay, how can I combine like business but also like stuff that's like for my community, stuff that's about like my people, and stuff that's about the culture. And there was just nothing that was there that I had ever seen or anything that I had ever heard of, other than your basic majors, which is science, sports, or not sports, science, math, teaching, art. Like, it's kind of like those basic generic words, but not knowing like the nitty gritty of the kinds of majors that I could look into. And I had seen a nonprofit that was in Texas, and they had done stuff with women who were survivors of human trafficking. And that like inspired me to see like a physical and that inspired me to see and to envision an example of business and doing good. So it's like something where it was like profitable but also cool because they had fashion items and they had these women hand make like earrings, and I just thought there were so many things about that were dope. And then my mentor convinced me, hey, go into business. Like, go into business and just see if you like it. And if you like the creative stuff, you considered graphic design too. Like, I'm telling you, my head was everywhere.
Right.
You consider graphic design, like, just go into business and see what you think. And stepping into business and focusing on marketing was, like, the best decision I could have ever made with a minor in entrepreneurship, or a double major in marketing and entrepreneurship.
That's amazing.
So that was my route, and that's kind of how I got there.
Right on. I heard that you had started a sorority at TCU.
I did start a sorority. I am a charter of the Gamma Theta chapter of Kappa Delta Chi at Texas Christian University.
How did that all come about?
So when I got to school, I obviously wanted to be around like people who looked like me, and I wanted to be around people who had similar experiences as me, and that was something that was evident in Greek life at TCU. So in Greek life, there's kind of different, I guess you could say, like categories. So there's like Pan-Hellenic, there's the National Pan-Hellenic Council, there is the Multicultural Greek Council. And so Multicultural was like Latino, Asian, and NPHC was like the historically black fraternities and sororities. And so once I had seen like the atmosphere and the hype around like those organizations, I was just like captivated. I was like, this is so dope. Like, obviously they're like strolling, but also like the pride that they held wearing their letters, and then just seeing not only like they were very involved and active in the community, and that was a big emphasis when it came to these Greek organizations. Like, you were just so captivated by their pride that they had. I was like, okay, I don't think I'm vibing with any of these ones here, but I think I want to start my own, because I talked to my mom. I called her and I was like, hey, like, I don't know if I'm really like vibing with any of the sororities here. I'm just not sure. And she just asked me like it was nothing. She's like, well, why don't you just start your own? Like, as if it was like nothing, like that's something you would do, or like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
And I was like, okay. And so I went straight to the director of the Multicultural Greek Council, Mr. G. Me and him started talking, and he referred Kappa Delta Chi to me. And then I started the process and started recruiting women on my campus. And then it kind of just took off from there.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow.
Thank you.
First generation, you go and then you just take it by storm and then you create your own. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's cool. So it sounds like everything that led up to you winning that, kind of going into marketing, multicultural. So what field would you say you are in? You're in like marketing, what would you say that?
I'm in multicultural marketing.
Multicultural marketing. And then so to my next question, what got you into how did you get into multicultural marketing? Like, I mean, it kind of sounds like you just said how, but
yeah. Well, honestly, it was not something that I realized I had wanted to do until I started searching words that weren't really, or searching phrases and searching job activities that weren't really a thing. So like, it wasn't really until like the whole Black Lives Matter movement happened, and there was this heightened awareness of the importance of representation and multiculturalism in spaces where it's not as represented. So I think that it was definitely before the Black Lives Matter movement, and I was searching stuff like marketing to Hispanics or marketing cultural stuff to Hispanic people. Like, I was searching something like that, something where you kind of could market like your culture to people. And then I started kind of digging a little more, and I saw, oh, there's statistics about how Latinos have such a high buying power in the United States, or here's the impact of Latinas on the economy. Like, there was just stuff where I was like, oh, like there's something about like the Hispanic population and the Latino population that's going to make a difference in a business, or it's going to make a difference in like the economy. And so once I kind of started searching like, okay, multiculturalism, and like, it wasn't a word quite yet that at least I had like heard a lot. Even like diversity, I feel like you heard it a little bit, but I feel like I've heard it so much more, especially being at a college campus and being a college age student, I definitely heard the word a lot more, like diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those were words that were buzzwords around that time. And being in class, I always felt like I saw the side of, oh, but how is this relatable to like the Latinos? How is this relatable, or like how would us Chicanos like in Denver take our spin on this? And I feel like I always was like thinking about it that way. And even in class, like we would talk about general stuff. Like in one of my sports marketing classes this last year, I felt like I always tried to come at it with that perspective of like, well, how would a minority buyer be influenced to purchase this, or to participate in this, or to be engaged with this kind of thing? And I was always bringing that perspective, and I kind of felt like in some spaces in different classes and with different teachers, they weren't paying much mind to it. So I think that brought up more of my thirst and like my desire to want to cater to and represent like my community more, because I felt like I was the only one, sometimes like the only Latina girl or the only Hispanic in my class.
Right.
So it was just different to have that perspective of like urban Latinos and Chicanos, and having that kind of that perspective of like, oh, how would like we do it in Denver? And like I would even mention at school like, oh, Denver Foos, and like stuff that like they wouldn't know, but I would show them. And people just didn't get it. People who didn't get it did not.
Yeah, no, with the Hispanic, the Latino culture, there's so many layers to it that I think from a perspective, like even from a different city, people don't understand like the dynamics of, there's so many layers, and they try to box us in so many ways of just like people from Spanish speaking countries. And then like there's so many different layers of a Latino or a Chicano or a Hispanic person. And I think like we're still scratching the surface as far as when it comes to figuring out the representation and all that. Because like, for example, like Denver Foos, like a lot of people, like I lived in Los Angeles, a lot of people didn't even realize that there's like a large Hispanic population in Colorado or in Denver. And it's just like, and then we're a little different. We're you know, we have our own style, we have our own lingo, slang, just like our food is different. Yeah. We could even start at the food. I mean, that's what it always comes down to anyways, everyone's like. But it's just a very underrepresented community. So many different underrepresented communities in the Latino. That's amazing that I think a lot of Latinos and Hispanic people feel and see the world like how you were seeing it. Like, well, what would that perspective? How would these people think? And that's so awesome.
I think even too the way that like I grew up, like my mom was burning CDs for me that said like Jazzy Fizzles mix.
Yeah.
And, like, my dad was wearing like Bape way back in the day when like, you know, I had no idea like what like the swag was and like what the culture was back in the day. So I feel like being out of it, and then when you're in it with so many people who embrace it and rep it and wear it, all the kids who wear the Jordans, and like we're all camping out every weekend and like that kind of culture, and then going like how I said, my grandma lived in Inglewood, so I went to school in Inglewood, and being around kids who like didn't understand it, and like they would even make fun of the way I talked, because I say like 12, and they would make fun of how I would say 12, instead of like pronouncing
proper
it
pronunciation.
Yes, instead of the proper pronunciation.
You're like, we're gonna go to 7-Eleven at 12.
Yeah, and so like people just like didn't really understand it, and even like the way we would talk, like I would be like, oh yeah, that foo over there, or like this foo, or or what's even like other stuff that we say, like Chicanos say like hito and hita. You know what I mean? My mom would call my friends who, aren't Latinas, and like, hey, hita. You know what I mean? So I think there was just elements like that where I could see the stark contrast of how they grew up and the kind of stuff that they had been around. Like they didn't wear baby fat. They didn't wear the Ed Hardy. They didn't wear the, just the stuff that like we had back in the day, like when we were younger.
Just how infused we are with the urban culture.
Yes, and so I think
there's a lot of stereotypes of like, oh, because you're Hispanic, like you or like the music we're listening to, like you were saying, like you only listen to Spanish music. Like, no, we listen to everything.
Yeah, I was trying to play like Little John and T-Pain and Plies, and like I was trying to play like all these old school like Ashanti and all that stuff. I would try to play that like in our pep rallies at school, and I would always get shut down, and like I would get in trouble. because if it cussed or like, it had bad words or it implied something bad. And so I think that was where I started to build this frustration of like, why aren't they letting me express how like my culture or how I grew up? Like if I'm at my grandma's or if I'm at my mom's or we're in the car with, my cousins, we're all going to bump this and we're going to sing it, and it's just what it is. And so I think there was this frustration that grew when I was being told no a lot. To not be who I was, and also not to like rep how I grew up. But yeah, I think that's what heightened like my awareness for wanting to embrace it more.
So when did you start taking it serious as far as seeing that you can make this impact in this multicultural lane? And was it after you graduated from TCU? Tell us a little bit about what.
Well, I think it definitely was. I think it definitely was after chartering like the sorority. That's kind of when I saw, okay, people will rally behind you when they believe in like what you're doing. And to an extent, like there were elements of, let's say, like, the way some teams that I followed would market themselves, and I was like, I don't really see like any representation for like the culture, right? But then after like the sorority, and then once I really started focusing on like my relationship with God, I feel like he helped me become more aware of like ways that he would open doors for me. And so I knew I wanted to do something in this space of like social media, but then, doing stuff where it's cool and like we're playing certain music and there's like the swag that we have to like how we bring who we are to like these spaces, or how we can influence like, the way that person is dressed like in the setting or whatever. I think I realized I was able to do it after the sorority, but then once I started to focus on my relationship with Christ, that's when I was isolated, and I spent a lot of time like focusing on like, okay, who am I? What do I want to do with my life? Like, who am I going to serve? Am I going to serve the world, or am I going to serve like God? And being isolated and having like a year of like a lot of hardship, I think that's when he just was like, I'm going to open these doors for you, and like you're going to get a taste of like what this kind of space is like. And so I got to do a program with the Dallas Mavericks, and that was a 1-week program through the Marcus Graham Project, which is a program that's specifically for young minorities to have opportunities to present themselves and present their marketing capabilities and their value in the marketing and advertising space, and show like, hey, this is our knowledge base. This is what we can bring if we were to work for you and your entity. And being able to work with the Mavs is what really opened my eyes to my ability, if that makes sense.
Because,
my team and I ended up winning after competing against 4 other teams. And the whole campaign that we were given for our brief was, how could we expand the Hispanic fan base of the Dallas Mavericks? And that was something that like it was a challenge, because I had never done anything like that in like TCU. I'd never done anything like that. I'd never been assigned a multicultural specific project.
That's awesome. So that basically kind of opened your eyes to this, that hey, you could make a career out of this, and kind of hit two birds with one stone, and making a difference like that culturally, and have a cool job. So after that, how did you get with like the Rangers, or where does somebody like how does all this come about? How do you start looking at you is it word for the grapevine? Because I mean, like, how does somebody get a job like you?
How does someone get a job for a Major League Baseball team?
And then in this lane of multicultural.
Like in sports and multicultural, one big piece is finding like obviously people who are doing things that you are doing, or things that you're aspiring to do. Let me correct myself. And so when you are seeing people who are in spaces, like someone who's, let's say, like an in-game host and she's a Latina, for example, like we have one for the Denver Broncos, seeing people in these spaces, that's how you can start to visualize and see like, okay, this is what I want to get into, or that's the direction I want to go. I think it first comes down to like focusing on, okay, who am I? Who was I created to be? Who is my creator? And so that was like the first foundational piece. Like it wasn't like me wanting to get into sports, because I had to have like God check my heart and make sure that like I was in sports for all the right reasons and
Correct.
not like because it's cool and
Yeah,
it
to
seems
be
glamorous.
yeah.
Like I wanted to make sure that like my heart was having the purest intentions and that this is what like the Lord wanted from me. So like I surrendered like the whole idea of going into sports to him when I did that program with the Mavericks. And I was crying and I was like, okay, Lord, like if you don't want me to do it, that's fine. And then the next day me and my team won and I got MVP of the program. So that like affirmed that that was like the space that he wanted me to be in for that time being. And it wasn't until I actually stopped like trying so hard. It's so crazy because I can say like, oh, I did this and I got into this and I did that. But it feels like honestly, and I know like he opened the door for me to do that.
Definitely.
Like, he presented the opportunity for me to do that with the Mavs. And then I had actually tried to work with the Texas Rangers for 2 years before I ever got hired. So I was pursuing the Texas Rangers for their Charlie Pride Fellowship. And that's a program that is for minorities and people who, you know, aren't typically represented in front office spaces like that. And I applied 2 years in a row. I didn't even make it to round 2. And so I was so disheartened, like, oh, maybe just like sports isn't for me or like the Rangers isn't for me. And after I had done that and I, you know, got shut down 2 years in a row, I had obviously been like, how would I explain it? I had been diligent enough. I don't know if that's the word, but I pursued the recruiter enough and met him enough times at like the career fairs that he recognized me. And I would just spit a little bit about, oh, I'm really focused on making an impact and representing Hispanics and representing people from my community. And I don't know what like my elevator pitch was, but he was like, oh, like great. Like he's a great guy, nice guy. But there weren't opportunities in the office yet for that kind of job. And then once that time rolled around, I happened to have had him on LinkedIn, which is like a networking platform. I had him on LinkedIn and he saw that I did that program with the Mavs. And to his surprise, they were already, I don't know how long before, they were already coming up with and gonna announce the new position for my job, which is multicultural content coordinator. So I think once he had seen, you know, me doing literally
your
what
persistence.
I did. Yeah. Seeing what I already did in the Mavericks position was what they were going to ask of me to do in the position with the Rangers. Like it was already perfect the way it just worked out. And so that's kind of how that worked through because he suggested to me, hey, you should apply to this position that we actually have. And then I started the application process for that.
Wow. And then you got, how long did that take?
How long did that take? I want to say, I think I met him at the career fair this last spring semester in February. I met him in February. And then I think we talked about like 2 weeks later. And yeah, it was a couple weeks later. And he told me about the position. And then when did I accept? I want to say in April, ? I don't know. I think it was maybe like a month-long process, 3-week process.
Oh, okay.
Because like you interview and then you have, you know, your interviews with each of your directors and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what that was.
That's awesome. What are some of the challenges that you deal with in your industry? I mean, it sounds like the position that you're in is somewhat new. So there could probably be some challenges and what are some of the challenges that you deal with in your industry?
Some of the challenges in my industry. So like if we're talking like multicultural marketing.
Yeah.
It's a new space. I think that is like one of the biggest challenges is because this kind of initiative from teams to have pages that speak specifically to their Hispanic and Latino fan base, this is like uncharted territory.
Correct.
So like there's not so much of, you know, data and
there's
you
not
know,
there's
years
not a
of
book for
research for it, right? Like I've obviously seen articles of people who have emphasized in and have agencies that are focused on like multicultural marketing, but it is a fairly new industry. And I think I think the fact that it's new and there's just not like much of a blueprint.
Right. And then culture could be so opinionated too.
Yes.
So
When
it's
you're
like, are you representing us in the right light?
Yeah.
Are you doing this right? Like,
Yeah.
you know.
When you're talking about culture, like, you know, when you're talking Hispanic is, and I'm not saying all of them, but it's like Mexican, Venezuelan, Spaniard, Dominican. But when you're talking Latino, that's excluding Spain. So like we've even interchanged these words like growing up. Like sometimes my grandma will say she's Hispanic, but then like some people, you know, in Denver, like my mentor or something, she'll say like she's Latina maybe.
Right.
And so it just depends on, you know, who you're speaking to, because you can't cater to everyone. You can't speak to everyone.
Right.
You can't make everyone happy. So it's hard because you may want to cater to everybody, every Hispanic, but that's just not really possible.
Correct. Yeah. There's so many layers to it all. Like
I think there's a way you can do it good, and there's a way you could probably do it well, but I think it's hard to be everything to everyone.
Right. So my next question's, if there was one thing that you could change about your industry, what would it be, and how would you change it? If there is anything, is there anything that you wish you could change?
I think one thing I would change about like the industry of multicultural marketing is for there to be, this is like across the entire industry. This is not like within my organization.
Correct.
Because my organization prioritizes it. You know, that's obviously why they created my position. But I wish that there was more value seen by every organization of like this kind of marketing to our fan base that is multicultural. Definitely. Our non-white fan base essentially. Because people had believed, you know, and I've heard stories of like how people will generalize and they'll think like, oh, we can just market all the same things to everyone because that's obviously why they're fans. And no, that's not how that works. Like if you're going to do the best that you can, like for you and your organization, you have to make sure that you're paying attention to who has like a big impact on your organization. And like in a lot of spaces, because where we are, it's a lot of Latinos, and Latinos have a big impact on these teams. Definitely.
What is it? So how long have you been with the Texas Rangers?
I have been with Texas Rangers since May 20th, I think was my start date.
So fresh.
Very fresh.
Very fresh. So this is your first season with them.
This is my first season. Only a couple months.
So during your time for this first season, what is your most proud work with what you're doing? What was the most proud project, or what was the most proud thing you've done this season?
I would say.
Speaking the mic a little bit.
I know. Hold on. I low-key had a burp. I low-key had a burp. I would say my most proud moment thus far into the season has been the rebranding of the page that I manage, which is the Los Rangers account. And so being able to rebrand that page was by far like the highlight of my season, the highlight of my marketing career up to this point. And that was like no easy feat. That's something that like my manager for, I believe it's the last 3 years he's been in his position, Jose Garcia, he has been paving the way for me to obviously have this position. But he's done stuff like being able to bring a mariachi band. We're the only MLB team that has a MLB backed mariachi band.
Wow.
And so like he was the one who, you know, opened the doors for that, and he had to, you know, prove and show, you know.
Were you at Los Dodgers? No. I mean, hey, no, I mean, you know, Denver Foos, we don't like the Dodgers, but so I have to call them out. Yeah. Because you guys, so you're the first one with your own mariachi band.
Yes, so being the only MLB team with that, and then of course, like, you know, there's other teams that have like a banda or a mariachi band, and like they've done their own things too. But being a organization that has earned the right to do these things, like there has been a track record in the organization to do like a Los Rangers rebrand. It's not like we kind of came out of nowhere and we're like, hey, this is who we're representing.
Right. Well, that's one thing in the space. Like ever since 2020, there's been a lot of just companies are just trying to like capitalize on the culture and multicultural and like But you guys have already been doing it organically.
Yeah, there's a way to do it authentically, and then there's a way to do it inauthentically.
Correct.
And that's where it takes someone who is from that community and or someone who is knowledgeable of that community. You know, not to say that every single person who does that has to be from that community.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm saying. But if you don't have the knowledge or you don't have the experience,
Mm-hmm.
you can't generalize someone. Like when I grew up, I feel like because I didn't know, like I was of Mexican descent. I didn't know I was Mexicana because I didn't know, like on my mom's side, that my dad's family was from Mexico. I was only kind of aware of like they speak Spanish and like very generic things like
Correct.
maracas and sombreros. Like I did not know because I wasn't around it like in the authentic way. And then as I started to grow up and I started to be around an authentic Mexican and Chicano culture, that's when I started to embrace it and obviously live it out for like my own life, like go to bailes and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't have like authenticity at the forefront of what you're doing, then you're doing it wrong.
Definitely. What is it like being a part of the Texas Rangers and working for an MLB Major League Baseball team? What is it like?
What is it like? It is a great experience, and it is something that I never imagined for myself, because when I applied for 2 years to work with them, and I applied for 2 years to just be an intern, like to have the experience and to be in the position that I'm in, and to have the opportunity to speak to my community and to represent my community in the most authentic way possible. I feel like that is like just such a blessing, like something that like I have to walk into my job every day and just be like so grateful for, and like constantly like have this heart posture of gratitude, because when you're experiencing something every day, like I feel like maybe you experience it like you're the Denver Fool, like what's up Denver, like all the time doing your thing, and maybe sometimes like you're just so used to getting into that rhythm of like I'm showing up and I'm doing my job and I'm doing this, and then maybe you like don't even take a moment to step back and be like, wow, like thank you Lord for like bringing me to like where I'm at.
That's crazy. I think the God speaking through you. I just had that conversation the other day where it's like sometimes you have to step back and have this gratitude of like, wow, what I get to do is like pretty dope. This is really cool. Like there's a lot of people probably on the sidelines, because people will see people's lives and say, I wish I could be doing what they're doing. But sometimes all the stresses and stuff, they don't see all those things. But yeah, just so you're in the shoes that a lot of young women, a lot of people would wish to do and do cool stuff like you get to do. What is like a day in your life like?
A day in my life? Like
for working for the Rangers. Do you have your own office? Do you work out with the team? No, I'm just kidding.
No. The team, they're in their own space. They have their clubhouse and all that stuff. But so I like park in the parking lot, right outside the stadium. And then I walk in, to the stadium. So, like, that is, like, where our office is.
Oh, cool. So your office is at the stadium. And what's the name of the stadium out there?
It is Globe Life Field.
Globe Life Field.
Or it is Globe Life Stadium. You have to, like, edit it so that it's the right one, so that I didn't get the wrong one. It's Globe Life Field. So... yeah, make sure, please.
We'll AI that.
Yeah.
We'll AI the shit.
Because they like, it's a whole thing. Like, you have to make sure you say it right.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
there's like Choctaw Stadium, and then there was like the Rangers there, like, because they've had, I think, like 3 stadiums in their history.
Right.
But yeah, so I go into the front office at the stadium and like, badge in, all the stuff. And I just go like to my desk. And sometimes like I'll already have like my breakfast pre-made, or like I'll like go get my breakfast like from the kitchen and stuff, and then I'll pretty much like get started on what I was working on the day before, or I look at like my notes to myself. So I like message myself. That's like how I keep myself in order. And that kind of project management can range from translating videos of Dominican players, or coordinating with someone who is doing some content for us, and it's like a authentic Hispanic type of content that we're going to post. So for example, we just posted something with mixed media from someone named Martha Rincon. So she's like a Dallas-based photographer, and she does this mixed media where it looks kind of like, can I actually show you a picture?
Sure.
I don't know if I have my phone. Do I? No, my sister has it. So it's like this mixed media where she uses like, you know how like Latinos, like we're into like our hoop earrings and like our charm bracelets and like our chains and like, you know, that kind of stuff.
Definitely.
So she does a mixed media where she has like that kind of like look to her picture. So if you swipe, she had done our photography for the Los Rangers rebrand.
Oh, that's
and so like
dope.
it was like coordinating with her.
Oh, I like the Aztec dancers.
Mm-hmm. So like those were shots from our Los Rangers rebrand video, and so she had done her mixed media on it, done her mixed media twist to it, and so like we were able to post this kind of content.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it really can range. Like it can be something where we're ideating, you know. This is barely going to be my first off season, so like I have no idea what the off season is going to be like quite yet.
Right.
Obviously we started working on stuff, but I'm not in the thick of it.
Right. What are your goals and plans for the future? As far as in your industry, like, you know, or anything.
Wait, hold on. I actually didn't really answer your question because I'm referring to the off season. Can I rephrase my answer to the last question?
Go ahead.
Okay. So when we walk in, we sometimes will have like an artist. So like, let's say like an artist is coming in, for example, like Mexican OT or like
Peso Pluma.
No, not Peso Pluma. We have not had him.
Not yet.
But like they might be coming in and we might have to have something prepped for them. So like they all get a jersey. They get a jersey when they perform. So we have these concerts called Viva Tejas. And so we do those after the game. And so depending on like what time the game starts, we'll meet up with that artist and I'm gathering content of them, like, you know, showing them the front office, or we are giving them their jersey and we're getting their reaction to their jersey. Then after, they may be throwing the first pitch. So then I'm, you know, coordinating with the other social media team who is like sending me that content, and, you know, I'm getting that situated so that we can get that all posted. But we already have a game plan before that. So kind of there are the days where they're the planning days, but then we have the days of like the execution days where we're getting that stuff that's big happening done. So we're making the concert happen. And so I'm there just like gathering the content for all of that. So I'll be, you know, like backstage with the artist, or I'll be backstage with the artist, or I'll be getting their reaction to something, or fans reacting to them when they walk out on stage, getting their first pitch, all the things like that. Or maybe it's like a merch drop. Like we've done merch releases with By Way of Dallas and True Brand. And so those have been dope merch collaborations that we've had. And so getting that content either from someone from their side, or we gather that content and we're doing like collab posts.
Right. Speaking of merch, we have a gift for you today.
Oh.
The Denver Foos. It's not Dallas. It's Denver.
No,
or it's not.
I love it.
It's a Denver Foos shirt for the Broncos. They went to the throwbacks this year, so
I love it.
we had to do a little throwback with the cream.
Yes, I love it. Thank you.
It's a small. Is that a good size?
I
Small?
think so. We'll see. I like oversized kind of fit.
Okay. We'll figure something out.
We'll
figure it out.
But what was your other question?
So, to the last question, what are your goals and plans for the future? You're in an amazing, you have an amazing career. You just started in the MLB with the Texas Rangers. What else? What other goals and what are your plans for the future?
My other goals and plans for the future, I would say, I don't know, honestly. Oh, my sister wants me to buy her a house. Well, honestly, it's wherever the Lord takes me. Like, I feel like I can't have a plan because if I have a plan, then I'm setting myself up for disappointment. And I think like I didn't have a plan even when I was, 6 months out from graduating. And then this opportunity, like, thanks to his grace, like, fell in my lap and presented itself. So, I mean, I would love to continue to work with the Rangers. For however long that is. But I don't have like my heart set on anything, but I believe that I still want to like stay in marketing. I want to stay in multicultural marketing, and just work with whoever I can that wants to do things authentic and wants to do them in like the dopest way possible. Like that's what I just want to continue to do.
That's awesome. Any for like people that look like us, people that look like you, young girls, what advice could you give to people to possibly make it into the position that you're in?
I would say I would say just like anyone else, like everyone says that they have like a hard challenges, or people have like tribulations and all those things. I'd say like when you're pursuing things that are good, things that like God has opened up for you, or things that you're excited for, and things that are gonna make a difference, and maybe you have, how to explain it, I have like the way I want to explain it. I think when you're on the road to pursue big things, and you're pursuing like your dreams, or you're pursuing things that like God's telling you and like affirming to you, like, hey, this is like what I want for you, that's when like the devil's gonna come at you harder,
right?
And he's gonna try to do everything in his power to rid you from being able to accomplish those things. So like way more stuff is gonna come at you, and way more stuff is going to pull you away from maybe doing that. But I think obviously there's discernment that comes with that, and so like you have to be prayed up, and you have to be in your word, and you have to be talking to God and knowing like what direction he's guiding you in, because sometimes people misinterpret like what the devil's doing in your life versus what the Lord is doing in your life. And so I think that's like the biggest thing is knowing and having those conversations like with God to confirm like what it is that he has for your life. Because if you're trying to make a plan for your life, and like you have this big grand dream of, I'm gonna do this for these people at this company, and it's gonna bring this to my name, and like you just have this whole agenda for yourself, like that's so selfish, like me,
right,
like this is what I'm gonna do. But if you have a heart posture where you're focused on, okay, how can like I minister to people, or like people in my office, or people that I encounter when I'm backstage and I'm with the artists, like like how is it that you can like live out your faith in the most authentic way possible, but like with the Lord like guiding you in like your every step. So I feel like that is the only way that you can really get into the position that you're meant to be in.
Right, yeah, that was kind of like Pastor CB was talking, like you got to bring people peace. Like you don't search out for people to bring you peace. You got to go because you're living through Christ and showing that you're giving peace to people, and they got to be ready to receive it. And kind of to what you were saying too, like, yeah, when everything's smooth sailing and everything's going too smooth and it feels too good, then that's when the devil's working. But that's not when God's working. And it's like you said, you're going to go through these trials and tribulations, and you got to just keep your faith and keep rolling with it. Yeah,
constantly like surrendering your desires and your agenda to him is like what will get you in like where you're supposed to be. Because I don't even want to give people like the advice of like how to get into my shoes, because if that's like not what the Lord has for you, then you're gonna make this big grand plan of how you're gonna get into my position, or doing something that I'm doing, and that might not be it. But if you are like prayed up and like I said in your word, he's gonna affirm you, and he's going to validate like, hey, this is where I want you, this is where I want you, this is what I want for you, and this is the plan that I have for you, like ordering your every step. That's what he will do.
Awesome. There were so many moments where I was like, yeah, like she's just dropping all these cool gems. But that's gonna do it here for you guys on the Denver Foos podcast. Where could they find you? Where could they follow you?
Where can they find
follow what? What's the page that
the page? Los Rangers, LOS Rangers, Los Rangers. That is the page that I manage for the Texas Rangers. And then my personal IG is jfizzle. Is it IG? Does it matter?
It don't matter. Okay, whatever.
Jfizzle,
Twitter,
JAAY_FIZZLE.
Well, right on. Thank you so much for making time out to come and be on the podcast. We appreciate you and all the great things that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Can we get a shout out to Denver Foos?
Shout out to Denver Foos. Thank you guys for having me. Love what you guys do, and continue to rep for our city and our people.
Right on. Yay! That was cool.